saya panggil press conference ni atas bab satu dua perkara yang tertimbul. Pertamanya, saya difahamkan cerita berkenaan dengan Menteri Dalam Negeri mengeluarkan sepucuk surat berkenaan dengan Encik Phua, ya, ataupun Paul Phua dengan gelaran pendek. Nama penuh beliau ialah Wee Seng Phua, PHUA, ya. Surat ni mengatakan bahawa Paul Phua ini bukanlah seorang ahli anggota K14 Triad, ya. Dan saya juga difahamkan 14K Triad memang tidak ada langsung di Malaysia. So, jadi kita bercakap ni berkenaan dengan sama ada Paul Phua ini adalah ahli 14K Triad di Malaysia, ya, di Malaysia. So we are confining ourselves to the Malaysian situation. So what happened is, if you look at the press release, Paul Phua was arrested in Las Vegas sometime in June, July of 2014. Apparently, because he was involved in illegal wagering or gaming pertaining to the World Cup football, or rather in relation to the World Cup football. Okay, he was given two charges, principal two charges. One is using telecommunication devices to communicate information. The other is, in fact, being involved in the illegal gambling by way of wagering and illegal gaming. Two charges. The other two charges relates to forfeiture, because if you are guilty, then they'll forfeit your properties and so on and so on. Now, kedudukan Encik Phua ni, Paul Phua ni, buat masa sekarang hanyalah di tahap pertuduhan. He's only charged. He's not been found guilty, nothing. In fact, I have been retained as early as August. Yeah, by the US lawyers who acted together with the client, Paul Phua, to engage us for certain opinion pertaining to the Malaysian law, pertaining to extradition. Namely, if Mr. Paul is given bail and he can leave the country, and assuming he were to come to Malaysia, whether his commitment to the US authorities that he will waive all extradition proceeding in Malaysia so that he can be quickly brought back to US, whether valid or not. That's how we got engaged to begin with. Now, in the course of doing that, and after we have provided the opinion, that opinion say he can give that commitment. And Mr. Paul Phua in fact gave that commitment, because he said there is nothing for him to fear, because he did not commit the offense. He will take the bail he provided, he'll come back to Malaysia or elsewhere, and he will return to face the trial if there is a requirement for the trial. Okay? So that's one episode. Second episode is we learn that the FBI in their, this is FBI in the US, the FBI in their affidavit has wrongly accused our client of perhaps being a member of the 14K Triad in Malaysia. All right? So that is the reason why the US lawyers, and the US lawyers that is defending Mr. Paul Phua is not any Tom, Dick and Harry. He's a very established lawyer. In fact, this is a lawyer who has been defending all the big names in the US. A very well-known lawyer. So he wrote a letter to me and said, look, since you have been engaged to do the legal opinion, can you also tell us whether you can do something in finding out from either the police or the Minister of Home Affairs whether Paul Phua is a member of the 14K Triad. Yeah? But in my experience, I've never heard of 14K Triad in our country, never heard of. And you must know that I've been in this for about 40 years. I know whether or not a certain secret society exists. But to make sure, what I did was I wrote to the minister, because the minister is in charge of the police and other enforcement authorities. And I wrote sometime in August. I wrote to ask the minister and give the full name of the subject. And I said, can you please clarify whether Mr. Paul Phua is a member of the 14K Triad in Malaysia? And very interestingly, of course, the minister jawab after, I think, 2 months, almost 2 months. He didn't jawab immediately. After almost 2 months, because he has to find out from the police and all that. And he said, Mr. Paul Phua is not a member of the 14K Triad. And I found out the reason why, because the police confirmed with me that 14K Triad does not exist in Malaysia. So what the minister said is squarely very correct and very accurate. You cannot fault for it. Yeah? Now, the minister also said, apparently, and this came to me as a bonus information, that Paul Phua has in fact in the past provided assistance to assist various agencies under Home Affairs in matters of national security and national interest. Of course, I cannot go further than that to ask the minister, because once it is national interest, national security, there is already a wall, because he cannot disclose how he helped and things like that, because that will be exposing a lot of informers and a lot of other information that may trace to the informers, and that will bring, or rather will put them into serious jeopardy of their life. Yeah? These are things which I am aware about. Of course, the minister did not tell me all these details. But when the minister say he helped in national security, that's it. I cannot ask him any further. But that came to us as a bonus. Okay? Now, this is so far what has transpired. So when the South China Morning Post and also 1 or 2 local agencies pick up this news from that exposure, my concern was the story was slanted as though the minister did something which he is not authorized to do, or did something to favor a person who is arrested in Las Vegas. He did not vouch for this man's character. He did not. All he said was to answer our question. All right? Now, if the minister had not answered our question, I could actually compel the minister to answer by way of a court proceeding. And this minister, I must say, is very aware of his rights and the law pertaining to information and national security. I must say this, I must stress, especially this minister. He is very aware of such information and what he can give, what he cannot give. This is not the first time I have asked for information from Home Affairs. I must say it's from Home Affairs Minister, not necessarily from Datuk Seri Zahid. I have asked from other ministers. I have obtained information, in fact, much more detailed information about people actually guilty and being detained in certain facilities. But because proceedings are ongoing, and the law provides me with the right to know the details, so that, like if you are said, you're guilty of murder, they charge you, say that you have murdered Mr. X, without telling who is Mr. X. You need to know who is Mr. X, otherwise how do you defend yourself? So most of the preventive detention cases, they don't tell too much details. And the law provides me to write to the minister to get more details, as long as national security is not compromised. The law says so. I can get more information, provided no national security involvement. Okay? And on many occasions, I think at least 10 times, minister has responded. Out of 10 times, 7 times positively to give me more information. I think 3 times they have said we can't give you information any further because it involves national security. So that is the situation. So this is not an exception for Datuk Seri Zahid to provide this information. Not an exception at all. And nothing to be suspicious about. Okay, that's my statement, and you have received your press release. Anybody wants to ask any question, you're most welcome.
Seri,
Yes.
because you mentioned that you requested information from the minister, therefore shouldn't the minister's reply be directed to you rather than straight to the FBI in the US?
My letter says, please inform the FBI Deputy Director. Because the Deputy Director was in charge of this particular episode in Las Vegas. So my letter says so. So that's why the minister replied to FBI. Because if he replied to me, I would have to send my letter, and then there'll be a doubt by the FBI whether my letter is genuine or not, and things like that. So I said, can you please communicate to the FBI? Also, it got second advantage. The minister may want to expose a little bit more than to me, because it is government to government. The minister may want to say something closer to national security, because FBI won't perhaps the minister trusts them more. That's the reason why I asked.
Seri, it's been widely reported that the prosecutors in US actually submitted some documents for their court proceeding, and among them is a report by the Royal Malaysian Police 2008 report, which I said that Mr. Phua is a member of 14K. Can you vouch for the veracity of that document? Because it was actually submitted for court.
You see, as I said earlier, there was an allegation by the FBI that Mr. Phua was a 14K Triad member in Malaysia. Okay? And when the US lawyers consulted me, I said, that sounds very odd. If you know the 14K Triad history, 14K Triad is the 14th general who escaped from China and finally landed up and founded Taiwan. It's got nothing to do with our country, and 14K Triad has never existed here. So obviously, the FBI has got their facts wrong. 14K Triad may exist somewhere else, but certainly not Malaysia. So the minister gave a very focused answer. In Malaysia, which is the jurisdiction he has, there's no such thing. Yeah?
Sorry, the court document is saying that PDRM are the ones who corroborated that he's a member of 14K. So does that mean PDRM was mistaken in 2008?
Well, I personally called the PDRM from the horse's mouth. Yeah, I don't want to quote the person, but I can assure you it's a very high level. Exactly what I've said to you just now. There is no 14K Triad in Malaysia, and therefore Paul Phua could not have been a member of 14K Triad in Malaysia.
So does that mean that the 2008 report was wrong?
Wrong. 14K Triad has never existed in Malaysia. Not even during the Gihin and the Haisan secret society. It never existed. So that's the reason why I was completely suspicious as to whether the information was accurate. And true enough, the information was not accurate. I think they made a mistake. And I think because the mistake is very big, it affects people's liberty. The minister, I think, found it quite necessary to correct that situation because it affects the liberty of a person, a Malaysian citizen. He is merely accused, and he's not accused of murder or anything like that. He's accused of illegal gambling. Okay? And Mr. Paul Phua, for your information, some of you may regard him as a champion, some of you may think he's not such a champion, but he is number 4 or number 5 in the world championship for poker in his days before. So he may be accused of this, but he's not guilty. We think he's not guilty at all, but and the trial has not even begun, and the conclusion is not known. So we must presume him to be innocent until proven guilty, and therefore the minister action in giving us the fullest information was correct.
Regarding the national security matter that Paul Phua here has held the ministry, when you mentioned about past, is it how recent was it? Was it like 20 years ago, or was it as recent as now? Do you have any clue?
Okay, the answer is I have no clue. The reason is this, I cannot ask about the national security issue. Yeah? I doubt if the minister will answer you as well, because answering those questions, you can do a jigsaw puzzle and fix up the jigsaw, and then you will know precisely what is the information or circumstances, and that can put a lot of people to risk. You know, when you provide information, like in the old days, I'm not talking about Mr. Paul Phua. In the old days, a lot of people provided information about communism and communist activities and all that, and that were treated, and that's how national security, national interest concept came about. Until today, in order to wipe out secret societies, the police as well as other enforcement agencies will have to work in secret to find out information and so on and so on. This is from my own knowledge of 40 years in this field, from the government sector and from the private sector that I'm a defense counsel. I'm quite familiar.
I'm a little bit curious, Nancy, because you see the letter says that the Home Minister does not want to vouch for Phua, but do you think that there was a need to actually mention that Paul Phua actually, contributed to the ministry and all that? Because that looks like it's vouching for him anyways.
Okay. It's a good question. I will answer you in this way. Our question was very focused. Is he a 14K Triad member? And the answer is of course not. But the mistake made by the US FBI was, not only he's not, 14K Triad, it doesn't even exist in this country. So the allegation against Paul Phua was perhaps overwhelmingly unfair. And then when a minister went into the file of Paul Phua, there must be a file, because otherwise how would the minister know about national security issue pertaining to information provided or whatever it is? And he came across some of these activities that Paul Phua have contributed to the Malaysian government. So having clarified, he found it necessary to say that in defense of our Malaysian citizen, he and his son are in Las Vegas. So in defense of two Malaysian citizens, he mentioned about the father having contributed in matters of national security, perhaps as a mean of persuading the US authority that Paul Phua could not have been. And this is a false allegation about 14K Triad. The minister did not say Paul Phua is not guilty of gambling. He's not saying that. Paul Phua may be guilty. Who knows? But we are convinced he's not guilty, because we are the defense counsel, we know the case. But the minister is not saying Paul Phua has got anything to do with the gambling, innocent or otherwise. He's only talking about 14K Triad. Yeah. Yes.
Aside from issuing a clarification, the government appears to have gone a step further and saying that they are eager to have him back in Malaysia.
Yes.
We are eager for him to return to Malaysia. That's
Yes.
the letter.
Yes.
Why is that?
I think that issue arises because it gives you a hint. It is a good question that you ask. It gives you a hint that Paul Phua, prior to his arrest, may have been as current as that in assisting the government. It could be. And there could be some remnants of a matter to be followed up with him, maybe. But I'm not aware, because I cannot go into the subject.
What is their status at the moment, Paul Phua and Seri?
At the moment, there are a few proceedings. I believe one of the proceedings was whether or not he should be put back in detention, and that's when we came in. Namely this, could they give him a bail on the undertaking that if he comes back to Malaysia, he will not contest extradition. And he gave that undertaking. So they want to know whether that undertaking is valid. The US authorities suddenly changed his mind in thinking that it's not valid. So we gave a legal opinion, it is valid. Because we look at the US-Malaysian Treaty, the Extradition Act, and the common law, it does provide this. And we gave a lengthy opinion. I think we gave that opinion in October? August. In August itself, we gave that opinion. Okay, so that proceeding, I think by now is finished. Now we're trying to set aside even the requirement to give that undertaking, because Mr. Paul Phua should be given a free latitude, because after all, it's just a gaming offense, it's a revenue offense. You see, gambling is not banned, not in Las Vegas, because Las Vegas is a gambling city. What Mr. Paul Phua was arrested for is gambling without a license. Okay, it's a revenue offense. It's not such a big deal, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, because I started my career as a defense counsel in common gaming cases. And we know that these are is almost in the blood of segments of the Chinese population, gambling, and nobody regard it as or rather, they won't regard it as such a serious offense. And we regard it as a revenue offense. Very rarely you find anybody, in fact, I've not heard of anybody being sent to the prison for gambling offenses. You're given a big slap with a huge, penalty in terms of fines.
So you are acting for Mr. Chestnut and Scorpion instead of Mr. Paul. You wakili.
There's instructing counsel, instructing solicitors. Chestnut, of course, is the instructing solicitors. That is the firm that I was telling you about, Mr. Chestnut himself. In the US, he's a big lawyer. He is known as a celebrity lawyer. That means he acts for celebrities. Anybody in Hollywood in trouble, he's the one. New York, politician in trouble, he's the one. Okay? He is available almost everywhere, and he is acting for Paul Phua.
So Shafee will just assist.
We assist because we cannot do anything in Las Vegas. Although I like to go to Las Vegas and see the whole proceeding, but we do our work from here. Yeah.
They think from PDRM regarding the report that is regarded as untrue.
I think they may have, FBI may have been mistaken, because they were studying Mr. Paul Phua activities, so-called gambling activities, more in this place called, not Taiwan, Macau. Whether in Macau there is such a thing, the police may have said, or whether there is a 14K triad, we don't know. But certainly not in Malaysia. I do not think the Malaysian police would have said that. If a junior officer said that, he's wrong. He's wrong, because I've determined this for a fact from the horse's mouth, that there is no 14K triad. Have you heard of 14K triad in this country? You have heard of Waki la, 22 la, and all sort of things, but not 14K triad, because this is historical.